Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of Philosophy in the Forest. I'm Shasta, and I'm coming to you from the Puna jungle on Hawaii Island. Today I'll be talking more about Dōgen Zenji and his famous 4-volume treatise, the Shōbōgenzō. Don't worry, I'm not going to get into all 4 volumes. I'm really just going to basically gravitate towards one of the most famous quotes, and possibly one of the most famous quotes that Dōgen has, and it's about the self. So today's talk and meditation will be on the self. And Dōgen reflected that to study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be actualized by a myriad of things. When actualized by myriad things, your body and mind, as well as the body and minds of others, drop away. No trace of realization remains, and this no trace continues endlessly. So there's a lot in this passage, and I'm going to first think about the idea of what is it to forget the self? And when you try to study yourself really closely, Dogen's suggesting that the closer you get to what you think you actually are, the more it slips away or disappears, or the exercise is also to allow it to disappear. And until you can't find anything that actually is you or defines you, does your concept of self stop at your skin? Does it stop several meters in front of you? Where does your concept of self begin and end? Did your self begin when you were born? And does the self end when you die? And was your self 10 years ago the same self as you see now? And what aspects of self have you allowed to crystallize that maybe actually don't even belong to your current mindset or your current life? And this is important because Dogen's suggesting that if we don't study ourselves, we'll continue to hold on to our fixed definitions and notion of ourself and other selves, forgetting that the self means ceasing to grasp in this way. So ceasing to grasp is like not defining yourself in terms of career, defining yourself in terms of the work that you do. It's allowing yourself to unfold. So the mind itself becomes like a mirror, and you can look at yourself actually as the text, as the Buddhist text, rather than even needing to reflect on sutras or long passages. The study and reflection of the self becomes the study of Buddhism. And then in this study, the goal is to forget the self. And then it's said that when you forget yourself, you're enlightened by 10,000 dharmas. Because when you become one with yourself, you forget yourself. And when the self is forgotten, the Buddha Dharma is an instant. It just reveals itself as the whole of life. And this Dharma is like our relationship to the world. The self in relation to experience. And so the self becomes the air around us, the ground that we're sitting on, the dogs barking and ceasing to bark in the background, the occasional vehicle driving by, mechanical hums in the distance, and even the noise of all the cells pumping in our body. Just this true awareness of body and awareness of environment. And so the self becomes an expression of the Dharma, because the self is related to the world. So the self is a part of all, and it's not separated. And the more that we come to understand ourselves, the more we come to understand the world around us. And so the Dharma is actually the path of learning to recognize the self in relation to ignorance. And this ignorance is parts of us that are destructive thought patterns, destructive habits, impulsive behaviors. And so the Dharma is just this relationship with ourself. You know, beyond enlightenment and non-enlightenment, beyond ordinary, beyond just tactless thoughts, endless to-do lists. And start to see through the illusion, start to see through the fake self, start to first see through the physical. So feel your body. And look at how all your feelings become these feelings of likes and dislikes. Look at how duality has encompassed our thoughts and our minds. Yes and no, like, dislike, and we move from these likes and dislikes just like a reptile, like with our reptile minds, just hot and cold and hot and cold. Notice this polarity in our minds and sit with it. And at some moment when the polarity eases up, we can come to know ourselves beyond simple feelings and cravings and likes and dislikes and all these images that we create for ourselves. How we constantly think about what we want and what we do not want. And this wanting and not wanting is what creates karma. Do not judge. Just sit with it. Just allow your true nature and awareness to expand to include everything. And this is the Buddha Dharma. Just go further and further beyond grasping and wanting and desiring and judging. And just allow yourself to be. Thank you guys for joining me. I appreciate all of you. Have a wonderful day.